I made a reaction video a long time ago to one of Casey Neistat's videos titled Being Rich vs. Being Poor. And in my reaction, I talk a lot about how much wisdom he has on the topic and also perspective of the differences in the lives of the people who fit between those two mediums. What I found out more than 2 years later though is that he was essentially taking us through the lower tiers of the topic that I'm going to be covering in today's video. Welcome back to my channel. My name is Reese, and in today's video, we're going to be taking a look at Maslow's hierarchy of needs. It's a theory which comprises a 5-tier model of human needs, and the simplest way to picture it is to picture a pyramid and the tiers that would fit into the pyramid leading all the way to the top. The way it works is that in order to move up that pyramid, we first need to meet a large percentage of the requirements of the previous tiers. And as we move up each tier within our own personal lives, we start to unlock or gain access to different types of freedoms, which I'll touch more on later in this video. But first, we're going to be starting at the very bottom of the pyramid. And at the bottom of the pyramid is where we find all of the core needs that any human needs to truly be able to survive and fit into society at a bare minimum. This tier is known as physiological needs. What you would expect to find in this tier includes things like air, water, food, shelter, sleep, clothing, and the ability to reproduce, just as some of the examples listed in this handy image here. Now, the thing that I find most interesting about this tier, being at rock bottom essentially, is that the longer we go without the items in this list, the more motivated we become to fulfill them. Just think about it. You become increasingly more tired the longer you prolong sleep. The longer that you avoid drinking or eating, the more thirsty or hungry you become as well. And then finally for this tier, once those needs are satisfied, we might start to shift our focus onto the second tier above. However, we will still be actively engaging in a lot of the line items, the list of things that we need to function and survive as humans within this bottom tier. However, some of them might even become more reinforced because we might get really good at whatever it is. One example might be your eating habits. You might get really good with your food and start eating really healthy and shape it in a way that affects your body in a positive light as time goes on. This is where we move on to tier 2 now, which focuses on our safety needs. Deep down, everyone wants to be in control of their life. Order and predictability are generally welcome traits which assist in our everyday daily routines. And just to take you through some very simple examples, financial security is one of them for sure. That is where you would generally be earning some type of income that is relatively steady going into your bank account on a weekly, fortnightly, or monthly basis. Freedom of fear is definitely another one as well. Living away from non-hostile environments and away from crime. Health and well-being definitely makes the list. This would be things like having access to certain medicines if required and being able to exercise in a way that keeps your body at its physical peak for as long as humanly possible. And the last one that I'll touch on for this tier being property. It doesn't only meet some of the physiological needs you require, such as shelter, it's going to provide you with a lot of other added benefits, having, the ability not having to worry about if you're going to be kicked out of your home and living on the street tomorrow in a really shit rental market environment, which is what we've seen here in Australia over the past number of years due to the pandemic. And that kind of wraps up tier 2. Let's move on to tier 3 now, which is belonging and love, which kind of sounds a bit corny. However, it is an important aspect of our lives because once we meet the criteria of tiers 1 and 2, we get to move into this realm or this world, which starts to focus more on the social aspect of our lives. Now, having met the criteria of tier 2, having some control and order in our lives, we generally will be able to find time to spend building on our friendships and improving our relationships with family and partners, just to name 2 very simple examples. And all of this combined gives us a sense of connection. It allows us to develop trust. And the most handy thing that comes from this is being or feeling supported, especially during times of hardship, keeping us in a state of mind that allows us to continue to function as human beings. Moving on, tier 4, which is known as esteem needs. And this is where we really start to find ourselves. We develop self-worth, we accomplish our goals, and we start to earn the respect of our peers by contributing heavily to their lives. This is the stage where we get to focus on mastering what we love doing, and we also gain a sense sense of freedom through independence. And this is one that needs to be said, and we definitely need to be careful with this one, but it is also a time where we start to seek affirmation and approval from our peers. We become someone who they look up to because we either have an experience or an understanding that they don't on specific topics that they are interested in learning more about. We become the teacher, not the student who's trying to learn, essentially. Billionaires often come to mind when thinking about this tier. They have everything that they could possibly need, so all that's left to do for them is to chase status and prestige through their empires. And now we move on to the final tier, which is tier 5, which is called self-actualization. We get to comprehend our full potential, and we do this through our personal growth, experience, and expertise without expecting to gain anything from whatever it is we're doing. In 1943, this was coined by Maslow himself as the desire to accomplish everything one can, to become the most that one can be. A good example to portray someone who would fit into this tier would be an artist who has never set out to make a profit from their work, but they still choose to paint because it's fulfilling. They enjoy what they do and they appreciate what goes into creating. To finish this overview of the tiers, I want to read a passage that I found which summarizes self-actualizers. They accept themselves, others, and nature. They are not ashamed about being human with its shortcomings, imperfections, frailties, and weaknesses, nor are they critical of these aspects in other people. They respect themselves and others. Now, since this hierarchy was first released, there have been some additions which often don't get discussed or added into the bigger picture, and I'm not sure why they don't, because I truly believe that they're worth touching on, and I'm going to just quickly. One of them is cognitive needs, which includes our curiosity, our desire to learn, and our desire to understand. Aesthetic needs, which includes our attention to detail, our appreciation for things that we deem beautiful, and our desire to find balance in what we do. And finally, transcendence needs, which in this tier, things get a little bit more freaky, but the main concept of it is it's our desire to have out-of-body experiences. So now, having just gone over a large amount of context about what the hierarchy is, let me explain why I'm talking about it today. It's pretty interesting when you haven't consciously put any thought into where you might sit on this pyramid. And I actually learned about this theory from my brother-in-law, who is a high school teacher. We were having a discussion surrounding public versus private schooling, and he really gave me some perspective into why he believes students that attend a private school generally, and I'm generalizing here, they generally perform better academically than their counterparts who attend public schools. The sentence from that discussion that really got to me, like it really sank in deep, was generally speaking, you're going to have fewer social or economically disadvantaged kids at private schools, which acts as a somewhat social filtration system. Meaning those who can send their kids to private schooling are usually more financially stable and well and truly beyond the needs of Maslow's hierarchy. Once I gained that perspective, I definitely shifted my thoughts between public and private schooling, and I started learning and focusing more on what that topic entailed because I wanted to understand more about it. Where I then moved on to wanting to place myself on the pyramid. And after some thought, I believe that using this YouTube channel as a snippet of how I rationalize things within my life is a really strong example to boost my opinion. As a worst case scenario, I deem this channel as an opportunity for me to better myself, to become the best version of myself that I possibly can be. I don't really care or rely about the views or the revenue that's generated on the channel. I truly do just love learning about the topics that I discuss. Now, having made over 300 videos on the channel that generally average less than 100 views each, I can truly say that I have no intention of slowing down. I'm going to keep doing this because I have gained a lot for myself from what I've created and put out on the channel. I would also say that at this point in my life, I am very fortunate to already be meeting the criteria of the tiers below self-actualization. So I'm either trying very hard to fit into that top tier, or I am already sitting there. If you've made it this far into the video, I'd be pretty interested in hearing back from you. Tell me where you believe you sit on this pyramid. Just drop me a comment down below. I think it would be pretty interesting to see your rationalization of why you believe you are where you think you are. All right, time to wrap it up now. Ultimately, everyone has the ability to move up those tiers and progress to the top tier being self-actualization. However, just keep in mind that you can definitely go both ways. You can go down the tiers as well, depending on what's going on in your life. I'm not going to touch on that anymore. The other thing to keep in mind as well is that the progress you make towards moving up those tiers might be at a different rate to someone else, and this will be dependent on many different factors. At any one time, you might be moving through the motions of multiple aspects captured in multiple tiers. You can be working on all of them at the same time, but to truly fulfill the needs of an individual tier, there will come a day where you go, yeah, I've got that covered. I'm definitely sitting here. I'm not really working on them anymore. They're kind of just stock standard in my life. I'm still engaging with them, but I'm not putting a hell of a lot of effort to maintain them. Which means that even though it's often portrayed as a pyramid, it doesn't necessarily mean that you need to go in the specific order that it's laid out. That's just kind of a rationalized way to think about the steps that you might take. You're not going to be working on self-actualization if you don't know how you're going to feed yourself in the morning. It's just kind of common sensey in the placements that they've been placed in. And that is pretty much all I wanted to cover today. That covers a lot of Maslow's hierarchy of needs. I hope that what I've talked about has been somewhat interesting and insightful. If it has, please consider hitting that like and subscribe button down below. I really do appreciate the support, and it does go a long way for the channel. So thank you if you did quickly hit that button down below. With that being said, I'm going to leave you there. So have a good day, have a good week, and as always, I will see you in the next one. Bye for now.